Good evening and welcome to CYC News for the 5th of February 2017 and the 28th of October 17:33 AM. I'm Mira Gerges. In today's headlines, Iran dismisses ranting Trump and vows for more missile tests. PLO vows to revoke Israel recognition if the US moves its embassy. Hillary Clinton to give Wellesley College commencement address. Deutsche Bank plunges back into the red with a $2 billion loss. Falcons on a plane. It's first-class treatment for these birds of prey. And Frank Lampard retires from his Chelsea and England days. To our top story in Iran, who has promised to vigorously continue its missile activity and not bow to threats from the United States. Ali Akbar Velayati, a senior advisor to Iran's supreme leader, dismissed the extremism of President Donald Trump, who declared Iran was on notice after it test-fired a ballistic missile on Sunday. The tensions between the two countries have been simmering since the election of Trump, a harsh critic of the nuclear deal with Iran that was brokered by the Obama administration. On Wednesday, U.S. National Security Advisor Michael Flynn said Sunday's test was a provocative breach of a UN Security Council resolution. Trump tweeted on Thursday, "Iran has been formally put on notice and should have been thankful for the terrible deal." According to Iran's Fars news agency, Velayati dismissed the president's baseless ranting and said that even Americans were not satisfied with Trump's extremism. Trump has been a longtime critic of the Iran Accord. The deal, struck with 5 members of the UN Security Council and Germany in 2015, put stringent limits on Iran's nuclear program. It allowed sanctions to be eased and business with Iran to recommence. Flynn did not say whether the US would take action beyond a verbal warning. 3 senior administration officials, speaking on background, said that they were still in the early stages of determining what action of the US should take in response. One of the officials said, "We are considering a whole range of options. We're in a deliberative process." Iran's foreign ministry insisted on Tuesday that Sunday's missile test was solely for defensive purposes and not a violation of the UN Security Council resolution, which bars Iran from testing ballistic missile designed to be capable of delivering nuclear weapons. The Palestine Liberation Organization, known as the PLO, will revoke its recognition of Israel if President Donald Trump moves the American embassy in Israel from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. According to CNN, Trump pledged repeatedly during his presidential campaign to move the embassy to Jerusalem, which would make the US the only country in the world to have its embassy there. On Monday, the White House spokesman Sean Spicer said there were no decisions on the move yet. Both Israel and the Palestinians claim Jerusalem as their capital, and by moving its embassy, the US would be insinuating that the two-state resolution was dead. Israel's ambassador to the United Nations said he was not buying into the PLO threat. The PLO would consider Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to then be responsible for paying the salaries of teachers, doctors, garbage collection in the West Bank, the Gaza Strip and Palestinian East Jerusalem. The PLO would then also plan to ask the UN General Embassy to suspend Israel's membership in the UN. The PLO first recognized Israel and renounced terrorism in 1988. In England, the British government formally set out details for the first time of its tragedy for Britain's departure from the European Union. The 77-page white paper was published a day after lawmakers voted overwhelmingly in favor of a bill that, once finalized, would give May the authority to invoke Article 50 of the Lisbon Treaty, the formal process of leaving the EU. It contained few clues about the government's overall strategy that were not evident in a speech delivered by Prime Minister Theresa May in January, but it fleshed out aspects of May's plan in some key areas. In summary, the white paper said that the UK will seek a new strategic partnership with Europe, deals Early targets for trade deals would be the US, China, Brazil, Australia, New Zealand, India, and states in the Persian Gulf. It offered no guarantee on the status of the Irish border, but that it would only aim to protect the common travel area that exists between Northern Ireland, which is part of the UK, and the Republic of Ireland, which will remain in the EU. In a foreword to the White Paper, PM Theresa May said Britain approached the negotiations anticipating success, not failure, she said. The House of Commons have voted overwhelmingly for us to get on with it, and the overwhelming majority of people, however they voted, want us to get on with it too. David Davis, the Secretary of State for the EU, told the House of Commons that Britain wanted the European Union to succeed, politically and economically, and so would approach the negotiations in the spirit of goodwill, and for both sides' mutual benefit. To other news, Hillary Clinton, whose first ever student commencement speech at Wellesley College in 1969 kicked off her career, will be the college's 2007 commencement speaker. Nick Merrill, Clinton's spokesman, confirmed that the 2016 Democratic nominee will be the commencement speaker at the all-women college in May. The remarks will be one of Clinton's biggest speeches after her 2016 loss. She has kept a low profile since losing to Donald Trump, only headlining a handful of small events that generally have a personal connection to her life. Clinton has slowly begun to emerge into public life, however. She tweeted earlier this week that Trump's travel ban was not who we are. Her clearest rebuke of Trump since the election, Clinton has begun booking speeches. 2. She will speak at a ceremony honoring Oscar de la Renta on February 16 in New York, at a Vital Voices event recognizing International Women's Day on March 8, and at an event at the LGBT Community Center in New York on April 10. And then comes her book. Simon & Schuster, Clinton's publisher, announced Wednesday that Clinton will publish a new book of personal essays in fall 2017. Clinton will discuss different points in her life in the book. A release said, using quotes she lives by as a way to get into each essay. Clinton said, "These quotes have helped me celebrate the good times, laugh at the absurd times, persevere during the hard times, and deepen my appreciation of all life has to offer." Clinton was the first student to ever speak at the Wellesley College, commencement in 1969. She was lauded for being a student leader after the speech and was profiled by Life magazine. To finance news, Germany's biggest bank posted a net loss of 1.9 billion euros for the fourth quarter of last year, hit by the charges that included its costly statement with the US government over toxic mortgage assets. Shares in the bank dropped by nearly 6% in early trade. Deutsche Bank endured a difficult 2016. Its share price plunged to its lowest level in more than 20 years because of fears over whether the bank had the funds to cover its mounting legal costs. The lender had managed to generate small profits for the first 3 quarters of 2016, but the heavy charges it booked in the last 3 months dragged it down to a full-year loss of 1.4 billion euros. That's still less ugly than the 6.8 billion euros loss it suffered in 2015. Well, have you ever boarded a flight dreading who might be your neighbor for the next few hours? Passengers flying on Qatar, Emirates, Etihad, or Royal Jordanian Airlines, however, have a unique type of neighbor to worry about. The pet falcon on these Middle Eastern airlines, the birds, which have their own passports, are permitted to fly, most often perching on their owner's arms. In the Middle East, falcons are the ultimate status symbol, and it's become routine for some falcon owners to have their birds join them, uncaged, aboard flights, no matter if they're traveling in first class or economy. This week, a photographer of a cabin full of the treasured birds went viral on social media. Ahmed Yasser, who posted the image on Reddit, told CNN that the falcons were traveling to Jeddah in Saudi Arabia and that the photograph was taken by a friend who works as a pilot. While flying with falcons in the cabin area is not unusual, to have this many on board at the same time is extremely rare, with commercial airlines usually restricting flights to a maximum of 6 falcons at one time. In health, scientists claim that patients with absolutely no control over their body have finally been able to communicate. A brain-computer interface was used to read the thoughts of patients to answer basic yes or no questions. One man was able to repeatedly refuse permission for his daughter to get married. The study on 4 patients in Germany, published in PLOS Biology, has showed that they were happy despite the effects of being looked in. The patients all had advanced forms of amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, in which the brain loses the ability to control muscles. It eventually traps people in their own body. They are able to think, but are incapable of moving or talking. When they become locked in, it can still be possible to develop ways of communication using eye movements. 1 blink for yes and 2 blinks for no. This form of communication is being used for more practical day-to-day means, such as finding out if patients are in pain or want a family visit. Professor John Donegue, the director of the WIS Centre, told the BBC, "If a person who is totally locked in is able to communicate, you're freeing the mind to interact with the world around them." And to sport. Former Chelsea and England midfielder Frank Lampard has retired, bringing to an end a 21-year professional career. The 38-year-old, who spent last year with New York City in Major League Soccer in the US, announced his decision on social media on Thursday. Lampard made 649 appearances for Chelsea and won 106 England caps. Lampard said, "Whilst I have received a number of exciting offers to continue playing, at 38 I feel now is the time to begin the next chapter in my life. I'm grateful to the Football Association for the opportunity to study for my coaching qualifications, and I look forward to pursuing the off-field opportunities that this decision opens." He won 11 major trophies, including 3 Premier League titles and the Champions League in 2012. Lampard also won 4 FA Cups, 2 League Cups and the Europa League. And that's all for CYC News. A reminder that you can watch this news bulletin again throughout the week on YouTube. I'm Mira Gogas from the CYC studios in Sydney, Australia. Have a good night.